I'm Dr. Adelle Thomas, a Bahamian and a climate scientist. I'm also one of the lead authors in the most important group that assesses climate science for the world's governments, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC. Together with hundreds of other prominent researchers, I try to make sense of what the science is telling us about how our climate is changing and actions that we need to take to reduce climate change risks. But you don't have to be a climate scientist to see that climate change is already having severe impacts on small island nations. Here in the Bahamas, the 2019 Hurricane Dorian was the strongest tropical cyclone to affect our country in its history. With storm surges of over 20 feet, it caused billions of dollars of loss and damage and resulted in the displacement of thousands of Bahamians. Dorian is just one example of the increased threats that climate change poses for all small islands. Since the Paris Climate Agreement, the IPCC has produced 3 special reports with many key messages for SIDS, and I'll highlight 3 of them for you now. Firstly, small islands are already experiencing widespread and significant climate change impacts. Human actions have already caused 1 degree of global warming. Our oceans have become warmer and more acidic. We've experienced more intense marine heat waves. Sea levels are rising at faster rates, and tropical cyclones are becoming more intense. We've seen increased coastal erosion and flooding, and effects on key livelihoods such as fisheries. Climate change is already contributing to land degradation and food insecurity, with negative impacts for the many small islands that are dependent on food imports. The second key message is that climate change risks worsen significantly as global temperatures rise. Every half a degree matters. The 1.5 to stay alive message that small islands championed is supported by science. The evidence is clear that risks of climate change are far worse at 2 degrees of warming as compared to 1.5, especially for small islands. With higher levels of warming, we face the complete loss of coastal ecosystems and significant risks to fisheries, tourism, and agriculture. Risks of multi-meter sea level rise also increase, and some of our islands may actually become uninhabitable in the long term. As temperature increases, we run out of nature-based adaptation options such as coral reef restoration and may actually have to start relocating communities. The costs of adapting to sea level rise alone are estimated to be several % of GDP annually for small islands. So even though we have been adapting to existing risks, exceeding the 1.5 warming limit may push us beyond our adaptive capacities. The last key message is that we need urgent and ambitious climate action to limit temperatures to 1.5 degrees. If warming continues at previous rates, we are likely to reach 1.5 by as early as 2030. Current emission reduction pledges are not enough and would result in warming of about 3 degrees. To prevent this, we need global cooperation to stop emitting carbon by 2050. Emissions need to peak by 2020 and then sharply decline. We need a speedy transition to renewable energy, with at least 70% of electricity coming from renewables by 2050. The good news is that ambitious climate action has synergies with sustainable development. It contributes to improving food and water security and health conditions, and also reduces poverty and inequality. So the messages from the IPCC are clear. We are already seeing the consequences of 1 degree of global warming. Every extra bit of warming above 1.5 degrees matters, particularly for small islands. And limiting warming to 1.5 degrees is still possible, but it requires unprecedented and widespread action, which can also help us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. As a small islander, I appreciate and applaud the hard work and momentous achievements of AOSIS. Congratulations on this 30th anniversary of amplifying the voices of small island nations.